Okay, we'll go back on the record. And so we're all clear. We've got Miss Della Curtis online, correct?
Correct.
Okay, you can hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Go ahead and raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Jorde?
Will you please state your name?
Della Curtis.
And Ms. Curtis, you, through a trust, have ownership interest in an Eminent County property that is being targeted by Summit Carbon Solutions for its proposed hazardous pipeline, correct?
Correct.
And are you able, ma'am, to see the screen and see a red rectangle with a diagonal white line through it?
Yes.
And does that appear to be an accurate representation of your property?
Yes.
And in preparation for these hearings, is it true that you prepared pre-filed testimony with certain written questions and answers, as well as exhibits and documents?
Yes.
And instead of going through all of those questions that you have recorded in your pre-filed testimony, if I were to ask you those today, would your answers be substantially similar as they were in your written testimony?
Yes.
And can you think of any material error beyond maybe just a simple punctuation or minor misspelling that needs to be corrected at this time?
No.
And do you have any particular update based on information that was only made available to you since the end of July of this year that you need to share with us?
Well, I've been hearing about this water issue that the pipeline will need, and that concerns me a lot. And also the plume modeling bothers me.
Okay.
Because I don't like about it.
So to be clear, at the time you were preparing your testimony, you didn't have knowledge of the water, the millions of gallons of water that would be used, and you also weren't aware of the September testimony relative to the plume modeling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And okay, well, ma'am, in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer exhibits 160 through 162, which is your testimony and your attachments.
No objection. Board will admit, give it the way due.
Thank you. Ms. Curtis, at this time, some other folks might have questions for you, okay?
Okay.
Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. Ma'am, I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. In your written testimony, you were concerned about damage to your drain tile on your property. What makes you think that the tile would be damaged by the pipeline?
Well, if they're going to cut across my pipeline, sure some of that pipe will be cut. And it's hard to replace a cut pipeline again back to the way it's supposed to be. And I had just, in that section of the farm, it's been about 5 years ago that I put that tile in.
Do you have a tenant or a crop share farmer who farms the land?
Yes, I have a tenant.
Are you aware that Summit has said that they would install the pipeline at least 2 feet below your tile and not damage the tile?
Well, yeah. People say a lot of things, and I would just have to wait and see, I guess. But I am concerned about my tile being damaged.
And you said, I think, that it would be difficult to repair or replace the tile. Do you have any experience with that, or what do you base that opinion on?
Well, just what I have heard others say, that when the tile is damaged, it very seldom goes back to the way it was. Something will always happen.
Have you had any discussions with any Summit land agents or representatives about an alternative route for the pipeline?
No.
Have you had any discussions with Summit representatives or land agents about the pipeline project or signing an easement?
No. Was it back in 21 when I first got their packet about their pipeline? I didn't understand their maps. At that time, they were going across 2 parcels of my land, and I didn't understand how that fit together. So I did call this number, and I talked to a lady, Miss Brenda Hall, I guess, and she corrected me or sent me a corrected picture of how the pipeline would cross my farm. And that was back in 21. That's the last I have had any contact with Summit.
Okay. Looking at the map that's on your screen, do you understand that white diagonal line and then it kind of goes vertically to the north? That's the pipeline route?
Yes.
Okay. Is that where you always understood it would be, or have they changed the route?
Well, they've changed it. It was going into the next section east of that red part there, and then going north. But back in January of this year, I got a notice that they had changed their plan, and this current one now is it. They're doing a 90-degree turn up north from that section.
Do you know
so
why
the second parcel is not involved anymore.
Do you know why they changed the route?
Didn't tell me.
Okay. And do you know why the pipeline seems to stop there at that road and doesn't go any farther north?
Well, across the road is Minnesota.
Oh.
And I do not know if they got if they've secured permits up there or not.
I understand. So this just shows the Iowa portion of the route.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You mentioned in Mr. Jorde about plume modeling. Did you ask Summit about any plume modeling?
No. Like I say, I have not talked to those people. When I first got their information, I had no idea what was going on about this pipeline. And so I gave it to my trust lawyer and I said, tell me about this. So he said, well, they want to come through and build a pipeline. And if you don't give your permission, they'll probably use eminent domain. And so I just sat back for a while and started trying to find out more information about this Summit pipeline. And the more I found out, I decided I do not want it. So then I directed my lawyer to tell Summit that I'm not interested. So from that time on, I think they've sent 3 different easement packages to the lawyer. And he transfers on to me, and for these 3 times, I've said no. So that's all contact I have had with Summit.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, if there's no further questions, Mr. Jorde. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Duboinski.
Didn't realize that no one else had their placards up this time. Ms. Curtis, just one quick question. You had said to Mr. Jorde when he asked about updates that you had concerns about the water issue. Are you aware that the water pumped out for cooling will be in a closed system that will then just be discharged back locally near where it was drawn from?
No, I was concerned about drawing water out of the aquifers. I feel that's a very scary situation if we drain those down. And, it's not just farmers that would be affected by that. Everybody in the state of Iowa would be affected. I do not know about this draining the water back in, so that I do not know.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Jorde for redirect.
Yes, thank you. Related to that line of questioning, do you understand Mr. Dublinsky to be saying that Summit proposes to draw tens of millions of gallons a year from an aquifer, but then discharge it locally, as opposed to putting the water directly back into the aquifer?
Well, that's how I understood what he said. I'm a little curious how that water that's going to be coming back, in what situation is it? Is it good water?
Well,
Or has it been?
I'm going to ask you about that. But first of all, do you have any idea how long it takes a drop of water, say a raindrop, to find its way to the aquifer, if it ever does?
Probably be a long time.
All right. And have you seen any recharge analysis from Summit relative to the water they propose to draw down, and how long it would take, and what percentage of the drawdown water would actually recharge the aquifer?
No, I have not seen that.
And then have you seen any evidence from Summit related to the processes by which the water would be cleaned or purified from all the impurities in the pipeline and any of the contaminants in the pipeline?
No, I have not seen anything, but that is my big worry. What's coming back out?
All right. Were there any other items from Mr. Taylor's questioning or Mr. Dublinsky's that you need to mention before I let you go?
Well, eminent domain is my big thing. Eminent domain to me means for the public good. And I don't believe this is for the public good. It's by a private company run by, and it's going to benefit private people in the end with the tax credits. I just think it's wrong taking the farmer's land like this in the easements, in permanent easements away from the farmer and their land. I don't know, this eminent domain thing is being used wrong in my situation.
I appreciate that, ma'am. Thank you. And I don't have any further questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate your testimony. You're dismissed. All right, Mr. Jorde, your next witness.
We would call Denise Tyndall.